What's happening? Good evening, early morning, whatever it is for you. It's just after 10:30 here on the West Coast. January 4th, 2022. That's right, I said 2022. 2022. And I hope the new year is treating you well. Welcome in. I'm your host, Joshua Diaz. This is The Lab, an MBD production. Good to see you. Good to be here. Clear a couple things up really fast. I did not let Otis directly chew on a brick, but he bit on one. And yes, his two front teeth are missing, but that's just how it goes when you're a puppy and you're living that thug life the way that he does so well. He's yes, he is doing fine. I promise. I promise. And anyway, welcome in. Welcome in. He peed. So I got to get something because he peed in my seat again this morning. It was rough. He does that a lot. I don't know if he means to. I don't know if he can help it or not. It is what it is. I don't even care. I don't care anymore. He can pee wherever he wants. He can pee wherever he wants. He can do whatever he wants. I don't care. There's no repercussions. How am I going to punish him? What am I supposed to do? Go, Rah! I can't do anything. I can't do anything. No, thank God I don't have leather seats. So, yeah, I don't know what I'm going to do with him. Oh, well, I mean, I know what I'm going to do with him. He's just going to keep doing whatever he wants, and that doesn't really matter. He can do whatever he wants, whenever he wants, whatever he wants, whenever he wants, blah, 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 blah. Welcome, welcome, welcome. How is everybody? Let's get into it. I know what you're here for. And we're here to talk about the Delphi murders. And if you saw yesterday, I did put out something about the Delphi murders. It was kind of it was an overview with some in-depth talk about those murders, and it was such a tragic loss of life at such a young age. Those two little girls doing nothing more than what little kids do. I don't know if they possibly thought they were going to meet up with somebody or not. I mean, that's one of the theories. We don't know. We're not exactly sure. But it is possible. And it is possible that they were set up. Seems to make sense. And it seems to be that there was a lot of that going on in that area at the time. A lot of people getting set up, little kids especially. It just seems, and there seemed to be somewhat of a predator type situation network. You know, as you heard in the video, that this man Klein, who was saving everything that he got from catfishing these poor kids, he was saving them and sharing them, which I find despicable. It was some sort of Dropbox system. So what that tells me is that there's a network, some kind of network going on, friends, really gross buddies doing really gross, disgusting things. And what ends up, kind of happening from there is anybody's guess. What was happening were all these moving parts, and everything kind of really needed to fall into place for it to happen. I mean, the girls needed a ride, and they got a ride after begging an older sister. I've been there. Who hasn't been there? Please, please take us. And so that happens. The girls get dropped off at a side entrance. They're walking across this very, very unsafe bridge. Very, very unsafe bridge. But apparently it had been done before, and it wasn't that uncommon, but it wasn't exactly safe. And that's when they see bridge guy. Just an odd looking character by any stretch of the imagination, walking across the bridge. And I do wonder if what was happening was they were saying, hey, we're on this side of the bridge. We're coming towards you. And that they could have been still communicating with this person. Once again, this is all speculation. That's it. Nothing more. There's just nothing more. It's just, it's, that's what it is. And that he had lured them right into the right spot where he wanted to. It seems as though he had the hill picked out and that he was armed and dangerous. From there on, you know, we kind of come to wonder the missing details. Yet at the same time, when we say missing details, there is so much that we do know about this case. There's a ton that we know about this case. It's gonna make me. I mean, you have a photo, you have audio, location, bodies, crime scene, DNA, implied fingerprints, and yet no arrests. How's that possible? I don't know. But it is. One of the key things that they say is he does not have blue eyes. Read a comment earlier from somebody saying, well, they could tell that by DNA. Okay. So they have DNA. They have DNA, but what is it? Here's my question. If Klein, so they go and they bring up this man that lived, you know, somewhat close, who was being investigated on child. I don't even want to say, it's just disgustingness, just, you know, inappropriate child videos and pictures, and he's being investigated for it, and his father's house, is searched just a few days after. Is that a coincidence? And then is it a coincidence also that now they're linking the young, or the son, Klein, whose house was raided, him and his father's house? Is it a coincidence that they're linking him now to a social media account that is linked to the two girls? Is that a coincidence? Law enforcement has said almost nothing about this case. And the reason that they say, and I say that they have said very little, and they have said very little, but the point of the fact of the matter is that they feel that there's a strong enough connection right now to throw Klein's name out there. Keegan Anthony Klein. So they throw his name out there. His house and his father's house is raided shortly after there. They say there's no connection between the two. But as we all know now, that can't be really, that's not necessarily true. How can that be true? Because now they're now linking him to having a social media account that he was catfishing plenty of kids with, giving fake addresses, trying to set these things up. And then what ends up happening is, well, he's linked to him. He's linked to him. Now, here's where it gets interesting, because if they're so confident to name him as somebody that is linked to this, well, he's in prison now. And that they've said that they have DNA. If Klein's in prison, they have his DNA. They have his fingerprints. It would be a match, boom, done. They'd be over this. They would have solved this case by now if this was their guy. And it's not their guy, in my opinion. It can't be their guy. How can it be their guy? If they have DNA and they have his DNA, and if it matched, it would certainly be downright convicting. But nothing, just a link. Well, let's check this out. Well, remember how I said that he had been sharing photos? He may have been one of several people talking to these girls. They were active on social media. Most teenagers are, male or female. Male or female. It's just one of those, it's the world that we live in. And so my assumption would be that Klein is not the guy. That Klein is somebody maybe affiliated with the guy. Once again, speculation. But that's their guy for now. And my thought, or my intuitiveness, which isn't that strong, is that there's a network. That this wasn't something that was just random. If you think about the crime scene, although, nothing's really ever been that disclosed about it other than the leaked text messages, there are signatures there. Who knows exactly, but it was staged in a way that almost a serial killer would have. Let's see. I didn't live with them. Exactly my point. I don't know, Rob. I mean, if you're in here and you're blaming the parents because the kids got killed, I mean, did they kill the kids? Is that the point? Because I don't co-sign with that. I really don't co-sign with that, Rob. I mean, what are you gonna do? Blame the parents for letting them? Let's see. Parents let the girl line with guys and go try to meet them. They're murdered. They did not do their job. Well, I hope everybody's as perfect as you, Rob. I hope everybody can do a much better job in life live up to your expectations. I mean, the fact is you're blaming the parents for the girls being murdered, and I can't oblige that. That is such a it's just not really how that works. Um, it's like that's the same kind of thing as saying that if a woman dresses a certain way and then she's assaulted, that she had it coming, she shouldn't have been dressed that way. That's the same thing, right? You're asking for trouble. In hindsight, do you think that they would think that maybe they shouldn't have let them go there that day? Of course. But it's not the parents' fault. Okay, well, Rob, you failed to get Rob out. Um, you are putting this all on the parents. They failed. They failed. They failed. So every parent that has ever lost a child to murder failed. Every parent that ever didn't know that their kid was talking to somebody online that they shouldn't be, that means they failed. Is that what you're telling me? I mean, you come in here and you're just upsetting people by talking about it this way. You can just go blame whoever else you want, but come on. Do you know how many kids have been murdered because of some stranger sick? I mean, the parents didn't ask for that. What do you want? What do you want to happen? The accountability issue here. It's the blame. The person that killed those kids is responsible for it. That's who failed. It wasn't like they knew that something bad was going to happen to them that day. This was a small town of 3,000 people. It wasn't uncommon. It wasn't uncommon to let your kids go roam around. This isn't something that was normal. But what is normal is that kids do keep things from their parents. They hide things from their parents, including online. It happens. Inspector Gadget would have a tough time keeping his kid from getting a whole, like, look, these kids are on PlayStation. They're on the PlayStation Network. And they message through that. They can message through, tablets and Chrome books at school. Come on now. Come on. We all tried to hide things as parents, but let's get back to the program. So my opinion would be that they were communicating with the killer up until the point of when they got there. And it is sad because it seems as though as soon as they saw who they saw on that bridge, they became very, very concerned immediately. Like immediately they said, there's something off about this guy. And that's where the video comes from. And then she puts it in her pocket and keeps rolling. And I don't know if that was sent out, wherever they got that video from, where they got the audio from, they won't necessarily say, but they were scared enough that she recorded it. And then we all hear that terrible audio when this man forces him to go down the hill. And the rest from there is, who knows what's going on from that point. We don't know exactly what time the murders happened, nor do we know how they were killed other than leaked text messages. But we have a 14-year-old girl with the wherewithal to get some video. I mean, she literally is helping from the grave. Rob. She is helping us from the afterlife. She's helping people try to catch her murderer and her friends murderer. And God bless her. What a, to have that kind of wherewithal in that moment is spectacular. Just brilliant on her part, and such a brave soul, trying to protect her and her friend and leaving clues, as many as she could. Wow. I mean, if you think about it, that's amazing. That is an incredible thing. So incredible. As somebody, she's terrified. Think about that. Think about how terrified she is. And she's smart enough to do what she did. Wow. Good for her. And I'm, the details of the murder from the leaked text messages. We're haunting, but one of the strangest things about this case is the whole search timeline. And if you go back to the search timeline, what you see basically is dad shows up around 3:15, 3:30. Can't get a hold of her, calls grandma. Grandma can't get a hold of her. They're searching. They search for an hour or two, then call the cops. Well, the cops weren't that concerned at the time. And let me tell you why the cops weren't that concerned at the time, because Delphi is not known for this sort of thing. Kids do wander off. It wouldn't be abnormal for 13 and 14-year-old girls to wander off for a few extra hours longer than they should. That's not abnormal. It's annoying, but it's not abnormal. And I'm sure that we've all faced some sort of, situation like that. Why didn't you check in, or blah, blah, blah. And, that happens. So what you think you're looking for is a couple kids that are wandered off, doing something they're not supposed to, or have fallen and hurt themselves. Kimberly, thank you so much. But they're worried, and the cops are like, well, look, this is they've only been gone a couple hours. That's kind of standard, I would think, for cops. It's a very hotly contested issue when it comes to this case. Should the cops have looked longer? Should they have stayed out there? But in fact, 100 or more people did stay out there, and they were looking all night, and to no avail. They found nothing. They looked and looked and looked, and then the next morning is when the big search was underway. We're talking massive. And it wasn't even it was the volunteer searchers that ended up finding the two girls, one of them nude and the other one also just in bad shape. And according to the leaked text messages, there were cuts, but that's never been confirmed. I believe those text messages because it seems like there were people that saw, unfortunately. And that it looked as though the crime scene was staged. One of the I believe district attorney or something, the district attorney or somebody like that, even went as far as to say that It had a religious aspect to it. And that is haunting in itself. Because if you want to go back, you go back to the network. I don't believe Keegan is their guy, but I believe Keegan is associated with the guy who is their guy. Because if Keegan was their guy, they would be able to prove it through DNA. And I think, I don't know, maybe they're not in a hurry. Maybe they're not in a hurry because he's behind bars for something now, but it would be a slam dunk. You know, you're like, okay, we can prove this now. We have his DNA at the scene. We have him interacting with them on social media. So, and you have this man in prison at the moment. So you have his fingerprints, you have his DNA. There's DNA at the scene. There's fingerprints, implied fingerprints at the scene. Yeah. Okay. So what happens? Well, they release this name to build this pressure. Keegan. And everybody in his little circle and everybody in his little town or his little community starts to freak out. And people will start talking. What DNA do the police have? That's a great question. I don't know. They just say that they have it. They haven't said what kind or how much. Just kind of standard in this case. They don't say, but I truly love. I can't all the time, or at least on the phone. Tina, welcome, by the way. We do know it's not okay for somebody to kill these two innocent girls and walk and be free. That's absolutely true. Is Keegan the one that had the missing girl tied up in the basement? I don't know, actually. Keegan would be. No. Okay, listen. It's not implied DNA. They say that they have DNA. They implied they have fingerprints. There's a difference. They say they have DNA. And which is, by the way, which is crazy because you have a video of the guy, which you can't recognize his face. I get it. You have audio of the guy, DNA of the guy, sketches of the guy, and yet you don't have a guy in custody. And so I truly do believe that if Keegan was their guy, he would have already been slapped with this. Keegan's connected to the guy, in my opinion. Keegan's dad DNA and his DNA would be similar. There'd be a lot of matching. And I hear people talk about Keegan's dad a lot. But they could just go get DNA from him. They could get a court order and it wouldn't be that difficult. They could get a warrant to search his person and take DNA. But look, this is for almost 5 years after the fact. It's a long time. It's a long, long time. But in some way, shape, or form, Keegan is connected to this. And that is obviously what law enforcement wanted. Rumor is that the DNA is partial, not enough to link to a specific match. Angel, you know what? I've heard that too. And just like everything else in this case, rumor is. So who knows? Who knows? But they say that he doesn't have blue eyes. And I guess that they could get that through DNA. I guess. But who actually knows? Trees asked, so if they're asking, so they are asking people who had contact with the social media account to find someone else. He might have not been the only one using that account. Um, who knows? To be honest with you, you know, this is one of those cases where you really understand why law enforcement holds things close. I mean, they kind of have to. You can't just go handing out all the secrets. But who knows? I mean, there could be multiple people using this account. He could have been the owner. Look, there could have been networks. These guys are disgusting. They're what we call incels, and they're predators. And they network. They share. I mean, that is just a very common thing for this. I mean, that's what was happening. If you look at the Maddie McCann story, one of the main suspects, Christian Breckner, was a part of one of those online distributions of disgustingness. Yes, he had a Dropbox that other people were connected to, so they're sharing. So once again, I say that I believe personally, it is my belief that Keegan's not their guy, but that Keegan is connected to their guy. Unless no, I don't think so. But the one thing that is weird is about Keegan was that he had been being investigated since 2017, and then he wasn't arrested until August of 2020, 3 years later, on all these. So what were they letting him do for those 3 years? Were they just monitoring him, who he had been talking to? Because they had taken 6 of his devices, and then a week later turns over a 7th, which where he deleted a bunch of stuff on there, and he started resetting phones around the 27th of February, which was just a week and a half, 2 weeks after the girls go missing. And then he deletes a bunch of apps on another phone that he has to turn over. So maybe, just maybe, possibly what they're doing is they have him running around trying to tie up loose ends. Who are they going to lead him to? Now, think about this. They said, we may have even interviewed someone very close to you. Was that Keegan? Think about that. Remember when the sheriff said, we've either interviewed you or interviewed somebody very close to you? Is that Keegan? It's possible. It is possible. But who really knows, right? Because once again, we're just speculating here. But the fact of the matter is that Keegan is connected to this in one way, shape, or another. In one way, shape, or another, he is involved somehow, some way. Do I think that he's Bridge Guy? I don't. Do I think he knows Bridge Guy? I do. And I'm guessing that he networks with Bridge Guy. That's the problem, is that I'm telling you, if they had his DNA and they have the DNA at the scene, and they do say that they have DNA, they didn't say that they have DNA that's not usable, that's not workable. They never say that. I know that's a rumor, but there's a lot of rumors. But they very, very specifically mention DNA. And why would they bring up the DNA if it's not usable, unless it's some sort of tactic to try to get somebody to confess? But, there's been at least four good suspects during this case. Trish Mount says that there could have been more than one person. There may have been two men. But from everything that law enforcement has shared with us, they say one. There's only one sketch of one person. There was only one person fitting that description that they saw, unless they were dressed exactly the same body type. I don't know. He doesn't deserve it. And I think that if the more that you look into this case, the more that you can see that this is this twisted knot, and that they're really trying to untie this. This is such a high profile case. And like all these high profile cases, you really got to watch your step. But then again, I think this is just my opinion. I think that criminals are protected too much. They have too many rights. Treated too good. Just like the man in, I can't remember, but the truck driver that got 110 years for crashing the truck of semi truck. They gave him 110 years for that. Pedophiles don't even come near that. They don't even come near that kind of stuff. Luckily, it was reduced, but I'm telling you, Keegan's got too many rights right now. Treat him like a person, the same way that he treated those kids. Like, I mean, he admitted to this. Yeah, Mountain Mama, a judge did reduce the truck driver sentence to 10 years, and they say he'll do 4 to 5. No, I don't believe it is as an organization. I mean, are there rogue agents? You think about when you say the FBI, we're talking about the FBI as like a whole organization, but people in the FBI are individual humans. So no, I don't believe that the organization itself is built on corruption, but are there corrupt agents? I'm sure. We've heard about them. His dad was bridge guy and Keegan was the accomplice. Just a theory. That's a theory that a lot of people work. I don't know. We can speculate, but I don't know. And there's a lot of things about this case that we don't know. We don't know where the person was parked, what kind of car they were driving, if they were driving a car, if they left the scene to go get the props that he was going to leave at the decorated crime scene. We don't know. But could the guy on the bridge have had everything in his? I mean, he was covered up for a reason, and the way, like, he was overly dressed, layer after layer, and I do wonder sometimes if maybe he even helped search, kind of to divert attention away from certain areas that would give him the night. I don't know. I don't know. We don't even know how long or what, when the killings took place approximately, because the girls weren't found until 12:15 the very next day. That's totally put. I mean, that's another theory. That's another theory, but who really knows? We don't really know. We don't really know exactly what was going on. He had stuff under his jacket. It looked like they think that bridge guy had a gun and and knives in kind of such sort of a fanny pack. And so who knows if he would have had other stuff under there, but the religious aspect of it is really worrisome. But obviously this wasn't done by some guy, and we say religious, like it's probably his interpretation of religion, some sick, demented David Koresh type thoughts on religion. I'm guessing he's not um, somebody who practices, keeping the Ten Commandments. Well, obviously, he's not somebody who practices keeping the Ten Commandments because he committed murder. But the thing is that we're dealing with a sick, demented person, and you could get that just from the killings, but then you add on top of it the crime scene, the decorating, the positioning. He positioned the girls. Yes, that is totally one of the theories. Yeah, and the weird part about this, when I say the weird part about this, everything about this is weird, is that when you factor in just everything that's known about this case, everything that's known about this scene, the bodies and the crime scene itself and the video and the audio, and yet we still know very, very little. And it is something that is just, unfathomable. These poor children who were just doing what children do. When I was 13, I remember I walked to the school to meet up with this a girl. Her name was Emily Chambers, but that's not her name anymore because she's married. But she, her and I met when we were little kids. It wasn't uncommon to do things like that. Who didn't go to the park to meet somebody? Matter of fact, we were talking on Messenger, AOL Instant Messenger on the computer. And I said, there were no cell phones back then. And so we met up. Yeah, Emily. AOL Instant Messenger. True. And we both lived, I don't know, probably 20 minutes away from the school. And we hung out. I don't know if that's uncommon. I don't think it is. Whatever guy, whoever was in here earlier, thinks that apparently he runs a pretty tight ship. So it's just not an uncommon thing for what the kids were doing. Yeah. I did. Yeah. AOL Instant Messenger. That was the thing. That was the. Listen to. Absolutely. Absolutely. But I would tell you that in this day and age, please do be careful. It's just not like it used to be. The internet has changed the safety of the world for the worse. Do not let your kids around these people. That's the only way to we gone are the days and look, who wouldn't want their kids to be able to go out and ride their bike across town and go play in the woods, like which was common for kids in the 80s and 90s to do. That was pretty common stuff. That was before the internet and these predators got this huge weapon, this tool that they could use to their advantage of sick depravity, and where they could stalk these kids. And because of this sick few in the world, everybody has to be worried. Because these sickos can't control their behaviors, their urges, because they refuse to get help for it. Instead of getting help for it, they just give into every impulse that they have, because that's the kind of sick, weak individuals they are. That they just can't let society be society. And I'm not saying that kids weren't preyed upon before then. It did happen, but I can guarantee you that it's much more prevalent now than it has been. And what is the common denominator? What was not here and what is here now? What was not there, excuse me, and what is here now? That would be the internet, where weirdos and incels and freaks could prey upon the children to serve out any kind of sick, twisted fantasy that they want. And the punishments for these crimes, whether the child is murdered or not, should be punishable by at least life in prison. If you're going to put a truck driver in prison for the rest of his life, you certainly could put a pedophile in prison the rest of their life. Open and shut case, no mitigating circumstances. No one cares. No one cares about your past. No one cares if you were a kid and it happened to you and you grew up and did it anyway because you knew when you were a kid that it was wrong, and you know now it's wrong. And you do it anyway because you don't value anybody's life but your own, and you're weird, sick, twisted fantasies. The laws should be more strict, and maybe you'll clean a little bit of this stuff up. 2 or 3 years for these guys? Come on. That's a joke. An absolute joke. How many of these predators are rehabilitated? They're not rehabilitated. This is what we have to do. We have to put you on a public website, you sicko. We have to put you on a public website and tell the whole world what kind of a sick person you are, so that we stay away from you, but you don't stay away from us. It's our responsibility to stay away from you, but it's not your responsibility to stay away from us. our children. So we have to publicly shame you. Why not just build the biggest prison in the world and put them all in? Because it doesn't make any good sense. Truck driver, 110 years, lied on his application to get a job. Okay, that's not good. Brakes failed on him. Maybe he doesn't know what to do. 110 years. He accidentally kills 4 people, and that is just tragic. Quote, or not quote, but once again, you think about it, it was him quoted as saying that the brakes failed, but that he was trying to find an off ramp. And then 4 people died. And I get that the 4 people dying is tragic. It's wrong. It sucks. There should be accountability. But you're going to let predators walk around? You're going to let predators just walk around? I'm baffled. The only way that you're going to clean this kind of stuff up is you got to come down on these people in the worst way. Whatever happened to public tar and feathering? You ever seen somebody getting tarred and feathered? It's gnarly. I haven't never actually seen it, but saw it in a movie once. I kind of liked it because it was a predator, child predator. So I think like we should definitely do more things like that. But I just feel as though that the laws in this country benefit criminals over and over and over. And I get it. You can't put everybody in prison for everything. Well, then let's take out some of the drug dealers, some of the people that have been in trouble 3 times for carrying pot, and let's make more room for the Keegans of the world. That would be my suggestion. Well, it doesn't make any sense. They never rehabilitate these guys. There's no rehabilitating these guys. And it's slap on the wrist here, slap on the wrist there. Keegan sitting out in the wide open, chilling. It's amazing. Oh. I don't get it. Please hit that like button, share, subscribe. Appreciate you guys being here, and thank you for the super chats, super stickers. We'll be back tomorrow, and we'll be talking about a couple other things. Appreciate you guys being here.